Great. So I think we can get started. Still people join. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to see you guys again today. So this is another Mira webinar, and today we're going to talk about the very interesting topic, which is TTC for next year, 2021. I know you guys must have a lot of questions, and you want to know, what we should do, how the next year going to be different. I personally have the same questions. So today, luckily, we have Dr. Marc, and who is the owner for Fertility TV, and he has so many followers. He has helped so many people trying to conceive or help with their fertility issue. He has a lot of followers on YouTube, on Instagram, and we also have Maureen, and she is the founder for Mosey Baby. Mosey Baby is the in-home inseminate device, so that can really work well if you're trying to conceive and trying to get a little bit extra help. And we believe, Mira and Mosey can work side by side to give you the great help. So that's why we invited them to the webinar today. So I know you guys will introduce yourself much better than me. So maybe Dr. Marc, you want to start with your introduction?
No. Ladies first. Maureen can go first.
Okay,
Yeah. So thank you for that intro, and thank you for hosting us today. So my name is Maureen Brown. I am the co-founder and CEO of Mosey Baby, and I am the co-creator with my husband of the Mosey syringe. So we had our own experience trying to conceive, our own journey, and experience unexplained infertility, and just kept wondering why there isn't something simple, low risk, easy for us to do at home. And so when we couldn't find it, we ended up creating Mosey. So our first was our inspiration for Mosey, and our second child is the first Mosey Baby. So we actually used our own prototype and got pregnant and knew that this was something that could be really powerful and help people inseminate at home. So that's where I come from and why I'm here to talk to you guys and help support you on your journey.
Thank you.
Awesome. And should I go?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to say thanks for hosting us and having us here, and especially this time of year to be able to help everyone think forward into 2021, as I know many of us have wanted to think forward into 2021 for the last 10 months or so. And really, hit this topic, which is really important, about planning and preparing and so forth. So, a little bit about me is that I'm a natural fertility expert, and my goal is really to empower women and couples to find answers, to get to the root cause of what's going on and what's potentially causing their fertility struggles, and to empower you with knowledge and information and a plan to achieve the results that you're striving for. So everything I try to work with is to really look at the root issues, to find the root issues, and to teach all my followers to look a little bit deeper, to ask more questions, and to gain more knowledge. And just a side note about Mosey and Mira, I've been a fan of both for quite some time, and have been a supporter of both. And it's something that I talk to with the couples that I work with all the time. I actually just got off of a phone call with a couple I'm working with about 20 minutes ago, and I brought up both tools because it's so powerful to not only be able to track your cycle, but then be able to have a tool like Mosey to be able to help you get a little extra support at home with insemination and kind of helping bypass some of those struggles, especially when it comes to male fertility issues as well. So I'm excited to be here with both of you. So thanks for having me.
Thank you both. We are really excited to have you both too. So for our audience here, maybe you have been to Mira webinar before, but just a short introduction. So I'm Sylvia. I'm the co-founder and the CEO for Mira. So Mira is the fertility tracker. It tracks your actual hormone concentration. So numeric hormone concentration, just like how you're doing the blood test in the lab. And we track multiple hormones, LH, estrogen, to help you trying to conceive, trying to avoid pregnancy. next year, Mira will be able to track pregnancy such as sign for miscarriage as well, and the PDG, progesterone to confirm ovulation. So I have been hosting, multiple webinars with you guys. So great to see you guys again. And then without further ado, I think we can get into today's exciting agenda. So let me start to share my screen. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Great. So just a little bit disclaimer. So we are here trying to help you to, going through this tough time during COVID and provide any help we can. This is not really intended to replace your doctor's diagnosis or treatment. And another thing is that when you have questions during the webinar, and please feel free to type them under the chat, and we will collect them. Mira team will collect them, and we will address the most popular questions after the panel is done. So before we start the panel, we want to know better about you. So I'm gonna put a survey onto the screen. If you can help us to to fill that, we really appreciate that. Okay, so you should be able to see the question right now. We're just trying to understand what your goal is, so our discussion can be the best, the most relevant to you, best address your concerns.
Look at all the answers come in.
77%, almost there.
Yeah. So a couple more seconds if you want to put in your answer.
Come on, everyone. We can't move forward until that number gets to 100%.
We know you're there, yeah.
Very good.
Away to get some water.
Yeah, we got the 64% of audience here today are actively trying to get pregnant. 24 are experiencing difficulties in trying to get conceive, and another 11% are curious about our fertility, like our fertility health. Great, thanks for that information. Okay, great. So I think it's we want to start this very interesting discussion. So the we obviously know that this year has been tough for everyone due to COVID, and now we're looking into next year. So what do we think about how did the pregnancy planning process will change due to COVID-19? Maybe we can start from Dr. Marc, and because you might see some patients, you might see some procedure has been changed, and you can give our audience some advice.
Well, yeah, I mean, since March, when COVID really hit here in the U.S., and obviously that time frame is a little bit different throughout the rest of the world. In March, everything was put on hold, and put on hold for somewhere between 2 to 3 months, depending on where we were. If you were actively in a cycle, then those didn't get canceled. In terms of IVF or IUI, everyone went through with those. But once those were done, we were all pretty much on hold because there was a lot of questions, a lot of unknowns, and a lot of uncertainty. And quite frankly, a lot of fear in couples trying to make the right decision for themselves. As time has gone on and we've learned more and have a better understanding, clinics have reopened, cycles have restarted, IVF procedures have moved on, and IUI procedures have moved on. And certainly I haven't really seen much, many couples stop trying at home naturally throughout all this process, especially when we've all been home together and isolated from everybody else. I mean, what more to do when we're a couple trying to have a baby? We want to, have intercourse and make that happen. And so that was a good opportunity for many. But right now, as things are changing and we're all becoming, in some ways, a little bit more comfortable with COVID, we have a lot more information. We're more comfortable with some of the decisions that we're going to make. So I think moving forward, as we are looking into 2021 and we have to make these decisions, one, I think we all need to feel confident with trying. I want everyone here to feel comfortable continuing to try. Obviously, every situation and case and health, pre-existing conditions are different for all of us. And if we do have some pre-existing conditions that warrant some attention as it relates to COVID, I do think we need to be careful and be mindful of those things and take precautions. But with that being said, I think as long as we are aware and approaching things the right way, paying attention to the do's and don'ts and being mindful of how we take care of ourselves and what we're exposing ourselves to, then I think everyone should feel confident making a plan to conceive in 2021. And I know we'll kind of get to that a little bit later in some of the topics that we're going to cover, but I will just mention that we also all need to be aware potentially once you do conceive that you are a little bit at higher risk, and we'll dive into that a little bit more, but that does warrant a different approach, and we have to kind of take different precautions with that.
Thank you, Dr. Mark. So Maureen, do you see similar things, or do you see people trying to do more at home inseminate with your device during this year?
Yeah, so it's been an interesting year, right? In so many directions. From our community, here's some of what we've been hearing is it's had them. A lot of people have evaluated what they're going to do moving forward. They took a pause, but most people have not stopped trying to conceive. The idea of waiting months or who knows how long just doesn't make sense for a lot of people's timelines. And so we've definitely seen that. We've also seen people come to us for different reasons that we've never had before, which, I'll give you one scenario of a success story we got recently was a woman whose partner was in healthcare, and they were trying to isolate a little and just not have a lot of contact because they were fearful of, transmission if, he got it in some way and they didn't know. And so they just really were limiting their contact, but they didn't want to stop trying to conceive. So he was able to do his thing and she was able to do her thing, and they did it separately, obviously within the time frame of using the sperm. But it was a way for them to accommodate their new living situation and their new lifestyle. So that was really interesting to hear, and we're really glad that we were able to have a product that could help them continue on their journey, even though their lifestyle had changed so much. So that, I think mostly more people have just found new ways to chart their path to pregnancy than they were originally planning, and they might have had to evaluate a little bit further, but overall, the majority of people have decided if they're in a healthy relationship or they have overall good health, that this is something that they wanted to continue with. And it's hard enough waiting 2 weeks to get your pregnancy test results. So I understand people having that sense of wanting to continue on, because waiting months is just endless sometimes when you're trying to conceive.
Sure. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. So from Mira side, we see the similar trend as well. So we don't see people stop. So if you're, thinking about trying to conceive during COVID and you're not alone, actually a lot of families, we feel like from our observation, they try to utilize the time they're staying at home and they're all together as the opportunity to really try for a baby. And obviously the procedure, I think there is a change. We are, many of us are concerned about going to the hospital to see the doctor, although, it's not really about the COVID department's OBGYN department, but we do see, users are concerned about this. So we actually see more people start to look for solutions online and also looking for tools at home that can help them to conceive or help them to know better about themselves. I think that's from, two angles. One is limited access to the doctors, and the other one is the they have raised the concerns during COVID. It's because there's a lot of uncertainty, right? We don't know exactly today how COVID is going to affect pregnancy for long term. We don't have that research published for that, and also we are not sure when COVID exactly going to end. So if we're giving birth in 10 months or something like that, how is that really going to be changed? So people are going through these uncertainties right now, but at the same time, I think there are a lot of companies or the doctors or consultants like what we're trying to do. So we're really trying to give some get some good access and tools and information to our users in a way that's more like a remote, that's considered safer, and also can empower you to really make the right decision. So if you're trying to conceive during COVID, I don't think you should stop because it's not everyone's doing this, and it's not really a scientific approved way saying, oh, during COVID you cannot really trying to conceive. However, there is a change of protocol, so there's different things you might want to seek for, you might want to pay attention to, and we hope what we're doing, like all three we're doing here, not only just the product, but more like also the content, the consultation, and all this advice can ease your stress, can help you to go through that journey easier. So very naturally we lead to the next question. I think it's more for Dr. Marc. So is that safe to keep trying for a baby in 2021? And I know there is the concern about the vaccine. So we hope the vaccine gonna work so that can end this very crazy COVID time. But also I heard something that if you're a pregnant woman, you shouldn't get the vaccine, but what if they're trying to conceive? Should they be concerned about that too?
Yeah, I think the first thing that we all need to recognize I think right now, especially because of the vaccine coming out, is all the misinformation being shared throughout the world. And, I think we all need to recognize that we have to think about the information we're receiving, one, in terms of the source, and two, we need to use some logic, right? Mm-hmm. I'm gonna first start by answering this question in terms of, is it safe? I think we've all answered this question, that there's yet still some unknown information around, is it safe to keep trying? Because we just don't have enough time and data over this time frame, given COVID and pregnancy and fertility. But this is also not a population that is going to be studied first on the top of the list as we're studying, COVID in relationship to health issues. I don't know any pregnant woman that's going to be raising their hand saying, yes, 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 study me in COVID or study me in the vaccine. It's just, which is why typically, COVID aside, it's why you don't typically see a lot of research study around pregnancy and whatever else, is because there's no couple running to be part of a research study like this. So we have to bear that in mind, and that kind of feeds into this vaccine, that when you're hearing this information that the vaccine is causing infertility or sterility or other things, it was never tested on those things. Like, I mean, let alone one, it's a short time frame to release the vaccine. So it was only tested in a small population. Again, probably not young, healthy, fertile couples. And they didn't test for the things that we're all talking about, because that's not what they're looking at. And no one was trying to be part of that research study. So when you see this information saying that it's going to cause these problems, it's just not a logical assumption. To see that, because that's just not where the information is, and there is no research to show that. Now, on the flip side, it is a new vaccine, and so there's a lot of information we don't know about it. But in terms of the way it was produced and that it's not a live vaccine, I think that should give us all a little bit more comfort and ease, and feel a little bit more comfortable should we decide to get it. But that decision to get the vaccine is going to be different for all of us, because we all have different health issues, different pre-existing conditions, depending on where you work, who you're exposed to, do you live with your elderly parents or not? I mean, these are all variables that need to be accounted for as we're making some of these decisions. But coming back to this specific question about, is it safe to keep trying? As we've all said, I don't think any of us should stop. You know, we will all regret it if we stop and until we're waiting for like more clarity and answers on COVID or the vaccine, because it could take quite some time for us to get more clarity and real answers when it comes to this. And most of the couples that I work with just don't have the luxury to wait, is the reality, right? We'll all be really upset and frustrated if we do. And so I really encourage all of you to move forward with your trying if you haven't been, and most people that I know, like Maureen mentioned, you know, have been still trying. But what I do encourage you is all to take the necessary precautions, right? To take care of yourself, be mindful of where you're going, what you're exposing yourself to. But one of the things that doesn't get talked about enough is what you can be doing to support your own health and immune system now moving forward. And I can address some of this I think one of the future questions we have coming up is in terms of like how to make a plan and so forth. But that aside, I think part of our plan is, how do we boost our immune system? What do we do to take care of ourselves? And if there's one thing that these last 10 months have shown us, is that, you know, there are different priorities in life. And we've all been made aware of that more than ever now. And taking care of your health, meaning getting good exercise, getting good sleep, proper nutrition, all these foundational things that I'm constantly harping on and talking about, not only help your fertility, but really strengthen your immune system. So they go a long way to support your fertility and your overall health, to hopefully boost your immune system now, hopefully prevent you from getting COVID, but if you do, also allow you to get through that a bit faster and smoother and with less complications. And that also kind of dovetails into what supplements you can be taking during all of that, and how to boost those things through boost your immune system through supplements. So really looking at it in a more comprehensive way and working in to your fertility plan, your immune system plan as well, and looking at that really comprehensively.
Thank you, Dr. Mark. I think I cannot agree with you more. I think for a lot of us, if you're, you know, the 35 or even higher years old, waiting for another 2 more years might hurt us more than, you know, even the risk for the current, you know, some risk to get infected by COVID, because fertility is also related with age. So, Dr. Mark, another question for you. So we have a lot of audiences suffers through unexplained infertility, and during COVID, it's been really stressful. We just have no idea what went wrong. So if someone, you know, have been going through this process, do you have some suggestion for them about how to deal with this?
Yeah, you know, I get this question all the time, and the first thing I want everyone listening to know is that I actually do not believe in unexplained infertility. It's a catch-all phrase that is used too often. And actually, it's really interesting. I find when I ask couples, do you have a diagnosis? And often they'll tell me, yes, it's unexplained infertility. But then at the same time, they'll tell me that they have PCOS or endometriosis or something else, right? Some other condition. And then I have to remind them, well, those conditions are actually our causes for fertility issues. And I would not classify you as unexplained. So first and foremost, I would say is, if you know that there's an underlying issue that's causing hormonal issues, reproductive issues, that I'm not saying that's the only answer, but I'm saying that is a piece of the answer for sure, and be mindful of that. Second is, if you have been told that you have unexplained infertility, then I really encourage you to take a deeper look to find real answers. I just find that when we get this diagnosis, we haven't either looked deep enough to find real answers, we haven't done enough testing, maybe you need a different physician to work with that is willing to look a little bit deeper and try to get different answers. Very rarely do I find that it's truly unexplained. Now, does that mean that every fertility issue has a reproductive cause? And the answer to that is no. But if you're only going to your OBGYN or REI to work on, to get answers when it comes to fertility, you might not get the full answers that you're looking for, because they're very narrow in their search in what they're looking at. And so we really do need to broaden that. Many people listening might be surprised to find that stress, in my opinion, is a cause for fertility issues, but that's not going to be something that your OBGYN is going to look at. Digestive issues and long-term, other health issues, long-term health issues, digestion, diabetes, thyroid issues, these are all contributing factors that can cause infertility. Does that mean that you have a reproductive issue or that your eggs aren't healthy or you don't have enough eggs? No, those all might be fine, but you have other contributing factors that are leading to infertility or making it more difficult for you to get pregnant. And so I really encourage everyone listening to take a step back and take a more broad look at what is going on in your own health, in your own life, and make a list of things that you believe could be a contributing factor to your fertility struggles. And then, reach out to someone who's willing to work with you to get more answers, to look deeper at what those things might be. And I never want to forget here to also include male fertility in this process. That's certainly a big cause of fertility issues and struggles. Yet I can't tell you how many couples come to me and have never had a semen analysis after years. So, I do think we just need to take a step back sometimes and get a better perspective on the situation. And not all fertility issues are reproductive issues, and we need to understand that.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Dr. Mark. I think those suggestions are super helpful. I had so many customers, they call themselves like unexplained infertility, but this is the first time I heard that you need to step back and to say what is really the cause. There shouldn't be a thing called unexplained infertility, but I think that makes a lot of sense and very helpful to our audience. Thank you for that answer. So, and obviously, during COVID, we see the increased demand or increased attention to at-home tests and fertility treatments. So maybe Maureen, you can share a little bit from your customer perspective, like what are the benefits? Why people need to do the at-home insemination, and then how is that going to help them to conceive?
Sure. So one of the things that COVID has really highlighted, right, is doing things at home. And I think it's really just fast-tracked this mentality of being able to take charge of certain things that you didn't necessarily have access to before. So between the internet and new advances in technology and obviously changes in our society and our mentality around fertility and reproduction, I think we at Mosey Baby take this to heart. Really, the benefit is in a multitude of benefits. One being empowerment, right? Like you have the ability to do something for yourself on your own at a time that is right for you. You don't necessarily have to go anywhere or consult over multiple visits. It's something that you have access to do at a time in an environment that is right for you, where you're comfortable and you can set it up the way that you want to set it up. So that to us is just a huge benefit from where we stand. And I think that goes across the board for a lot of home fertility options. The other benefits are that it can give you something that might be able to help you, right? Like with Mosey Baby and using Mosey Kit, you have the ability to inseminate at home. And for many people, there's different reasons why people go into this, and I'll talk about this later, who's a good candidate or somebody who might want to think about using Mosey. So I'll talk about that later, but basically there's a lot of little ways that you can help with that process. And to Marc's point, to Dr. Sklar's point, one of that is just relieving stress. Like, we say keep sex sexy and leave conception to Mosey, in the sense that sometimes you just need a break from timing sex. And that is a reason that we hear a number of times. And that is one of the reasons that we got frustrated in our journey, and also, had a diagnosis of unexplained infertility, which is, quite frankly, I love what Dr. Sklar said, because it's disheartening to hear. You think you're going to find an answer or a solution, and you can work towards the solution. And unfortunately, when you hear that, it's a little overwhelming. So if you've heard that answer in your life, my heart goes out to you. And, I really think what Dr. Sklar had to say was some really good advice. But overall, empowerment, the ability to have a product that can help you in a way that you wouldn't be able to help yourself naturally, are two really main benefits. And then we can talk later about who might want to consider it.
Thank you, Maureen. So we see a very similar trend as well. So for Mira, as we discussed earlier, you can see your actual fertility hormone concentrations at home. So that gives you so much more clarity about how the cycle is going, and do you have a certain pattern. To our surprise, a lot of our users can't get pregnant because they were tracking the ovulation at the wrong time. Not everyone ovulated on day 14 of the cycle, or exactly 14 between the next period. A lot of us are different, and we fluctuate from a cycle to cycle too. So, from simple things like that to more complicated things, such as maybe you think you have unexplained infertility, but you actually have PCOS, or you have very irregular cycle. Ovulation doesn't happen all the time. Ovulation happen at the irregular time. All this could be the cause. So in order to really solve the problem, they look at myths right now, but in order to really decode the myths, to solve it, we need to understand what is the problem statements. And that's why at-home tests can help you, like Mira, because it will track you for long term. It's very accessible. It's very easy to track for long term. So you will see the pattern. You can compare. You can see if there's improvement. You can see where the problem is at. You can also show your data to your doctor. So doctor can have more information about you as well. So, really from there, we're really trying to approach that from more like a reality based, to try to define the reality, find out the issue first, and then go from there. So we believe that that's really where fertility treatment or fertility testing should be going in the near future, regardless there's COVID or not COVID, because the testing daily or track your hormone profile, not just the tracking the day of ovulation, should be the way to go. You are a person, everything is connected. The hormones are connected, they work together. So you can ovulate, you can be healthy, you have good skin. All these things are associated with that, not just the day for the ovulation. That's, the only thing tracking. So great. So then, we got a lot of questions about the basics for hormones. So why do we need to track hormone in order to get pregnant? So here I prepared, few really simple slides to help you to understand that. So first, we talk a little bit about how Mira works. So Mira tracks your numerical hormone concentration. So you got the hormone numbers and you got a curve. So that's so important, because everyone's different. The absolute number doesn't really mean too much unless you compare with, for example, your surge needs to be compared with your baseline, and your current cycle needs to be compared with your past cycle to define what is irregularity or regularity for your cycle. And also we test the multiple hormones. So we treat people as a whole thing. So it's comprehensive, it's holistic, not just tracking one hormone at a time, which can give you misunderstanding for your own health. And then we have to look into our hormone profile. So if you have never seen this chart before, it can be scary, but the two major hormones you need to care about are the LH hormone, which is a light blue line here, and also the estrogen hormone, which is the that blue line on the top. So when LH surge means it's increased, your ovulation is about to happen. So usually this surge happens about 12 hours to 36 hours before the ovulation. So that means if you detect the LH surge, then you should try to conceive immediately if you're trying to for a baby, right? So that's your best chance. The egg is about to come. But once the egg is being released, it only lives up to 24 hours. So you have a really short time if you find your ovulation has already occurred. But luckily, we have another hormone, which is estrogen. It increases few days before the ovulation, okay? And then you might ask, so why do I care about the days before ovulation? I don't have an egg. How can I be pregnant? The answer is that if the sperm quality is really good and if your mucus quality is also good, the sperm can wait there, so live inside the woman's body up to like 3-4 days or so on. Everyone's different again. So it can wait for the egg to release and then fertilize that egg. So that's why we want to test estrogen and LH together. So this will give you your full fertile window, at the same time will give you your full non-fertile window, right? Because we know some people here are trying to avoid pregnancy. So you see those hormones, they look like independent lines, but they trigger each other. So in your body, actually one hormone release will trigger another hormone. So they work like a symphony. They have to work in place with each other in order for your body to function. And that's why you want to care about the multiple hormones at the same time. You want to care about long-term pattern, not just just a single hormone. So Mira has done some clinical study as well. So we have tested, compared with laboratory instrument on LH estrogen, we got almost identical results. So, just an introduction about the Mira, in case you're still not a Mira user and curious about how this device works. And then the next question is for Maureen. So maybe you can tell us more about when should you consider ICI at home, and give us a little bit more things about how Mosey Baby works. And you can control the slide at the bottom of the screen if you want.
All right, I'll see if I can see. Oh, there we go. So first of all, I'm not sure if everybody knows what intracervical insemination is, known as ICI. So that is a way to transfer sperm, basically, when you are transferring it into the vagina. So sex is a form of ICI, and it's just that you use a penis. So with Mosey, you're using Mosey. And, some people get confused between ICI, IUI, IVF. ICI is the one that you can do at home. IUI is one that you want to involve a doctor with, along with IVF. So IVF is the one where, you're going to go through a lot more testing, a lot more meds. It's a way more intensive process and is definitely used for very specific reasons. IUI oftentimes is a first step in kind of exploring clinical options. And ICI is a low risk, low cost option for people to use at home prior to, depending on their situation and their scenario, considering more clinical invasive options. So ICI is what Mosey is a form of. And so so we have a video on our YouTube actually where I talk about this. There's general groups of people, and I just realized my air conditioning was on this entire time. So I am sorry if that has been in the background. My husband told me to turn it off before, and of course I forgot. So, but back on point. So there's a video on our YouTube where I talk about 6 different types of people who might consider using Mosey. It is not the be-all, end-all of groups of people who might consider it, but I'll just briefly mention a few here. So I touched on a little bit frustrated couples. It is true, sometimes you need a break. You can be intimate if you want during the process or not. And for some people, that's great. the timing has gotten really pressurized for him and for her. And so it's a scenario where people just need to take a break. They know their roles. They're each going to do their part. And it just kind of brings it back a little bit. There's no pressure to perform. There's no pressure to, to worry about missing out. Sometimes he just needs a break, just like you. Unfortunately, he has to perform for this to work, and you don't necessarily, so that's where I know that a lot of men experience that pressure, and it's real. And, they have their own stigma that they have to deal with and emotions that go with that process just as much as we do. Some other groups of people are people who just happen to love someone who shares their body parts. So folks in the LGBTQ community who are in love with someone, or maybe are venturing into parenthood on their own, and they have a donor and they're looking for a way to transfer, get that sperm where it needs to go. So that's another group of people who use Mosey. Other groups that we've seen are people who have painful intercourse, or like I mentioned, performance issues. Some men are have erectile issues where they're able to complete on their own, but maybe not with a partner. There's all sorts of people who have challenges with actual physical sex too, where they might have back issues, or they might have been in some sort of accident where they're still able to perform, but it's not as easy to have the act of intercourse. There's also single mothers by choice who have bold women who are ready to start their family, and they simply need, an alternative method to, again, transfer that sperm. And then I'm trying to remember if there's a couple other groups that I haven't mentioned. So go to our website if you're curious. You can see a whole bunch of success stories in our Mosey Stories section. This is by far not the entire list of people we've seen who have benefited from using Mosey. And then the last one I'll mention is people who have unexplained infertility, who either are in a place where they're considering all sorts of options, and they just want to try something at home on their own before considering more clinical options that, obviously are there for a reason. So again, Mosey's not right for everybody in every situation, and it's definitely something you should evaluate, even consult your doctor if you're uncertain. But these are generally some of our more common users of Mosey. And then I know we're getting short on time, but I wanted to just show you guys a picture of Mosey. So here's the Mosey kit. It is designed for insemination, so there's some benefits to it. One is that you get to maximize the use of the specimen. You don't trap any in the barrel. It's comfortable, and it's got a slit opening as well, which mimics Mother Nature. Most people don't know this. I know Dr. Sklar does. But men's penises are designed with a slit opening. And so Mother Nature was thoughtful. It's a gentler way to transfer sperm. And it creates a laminar flow, which if anybody's an engineer, they may know that term. But it just is a smoother ride for those little fellas to get from from the penis or from the syringe to their destination. And again, it might give a little bit further spread as well. So I'll hand it back off to Sylvia.
Thank you, Maureen, for that explanation. That looks really, really cool and very innovative as well. So our last topic before we start the Q&A is for Dr. Marc. So now the pandemic is still ongoing. So what precaution do you have for people who are trying to get pregnant? I actually saw some questions in the chat about that too. They're asking about how to boost the immune system, and they're talking about how to handle the stress, and also prenatal vitamin for men, for women. I know there's the different topics in there, but if you want to give some advice, what would you say?
Sure. I can't see the chat, so I don't know what those questions are. But I will say, in terms of precautions, coming back to what we've been mentioning, it's really the precautions are for us to take care of ourselves and make sure we're doing all the right things. This is really we could look at the pandemic in the negative light or in the positive light. And I'm always one for the glass is half full. So I tend to look at it and saying, well, what have been the benefits of the pandemic? Well, I get to sleep in later. I get more sleep and usually better sleep. I have more time to take care of myself. I have more time to spend time with my family, more time to cook better meals. I mean, all these things that we all can really take advantage of. And so when it comes to these precautions, the biggest precaution is really once you get pregnant. Once you get pregnant, your immune system is more compromised. You're more susceptible to catching all sorts of things, colds, flus, viruses. And so as a result, you are more susceptible to catching COVID. So we do need to take more precautions once we are pregnant. But I think also doing the things or taking some of the supplements that can help support our immune system. So to answer what I think someone asked a question about this specifically, the vitamins that are at the top of my list for supporting boosting our immune system, which by chance, so can also help just give you the proper nutrients to help with fertility. At the top of my list is vitamin D. There have been many research studies recently. I think we're approaching 20 right now, although small, but really positive, showing a big disparity in those whose numbers were very low and compared to those whose numbers were even just at basic optimal level of 30 or 35. And that alone, if you were below that number, you were more susceptible to get COVID and get a more severe case of it and end up in the ICU or even more complications versus those whose levels were higher. There was also a research study that showed that once someone contracted it, they gave them high amounts of vitamin D, and that also was helpful in preventing ICU transfers and length and shortening length of time in the hospital. So that really is at the top of my list for anyone listening to be taking. And I really wish the news was talking more about these things. Vitamin C, zinc, those are some key things that I think we can all be taking. The list can be expanded, and I tend to expand that for those couples when I know a little bit more about their situations and what's going on. And some of this also, we have to be mindful of how many supplements we're taking as well. If you're already taking a bunch of supplements for your fertility and now you're going to add on a bunch of these for your immune system, we just got to find some balance. But those are some of the key ones, and those are the precautions that I would take and some of the steps that I would take as well.
Thank you, Dr. Mark. That was really helpful. So with that, we can get into our Q&A session. And we actually seen a lot of questions sent by you guys. So thanks for being engaged and being interactive with us. So, okay, so I will try a couple questions that's for Mira, and then I will give to Maureen and Dr. Mark for the rest. So we see a question for Mira about the timeline for progesterone. So the timeline for that will be next year. I don't know exactly the timeline yet. Maybe it's Q3, maybe it's Q4. It's new product development, it's very innovative, it's quantitative testing. But we really aim to give everyone a woman's health testing platform, not just the OPK, not just fertility testing, not just ovulation testing, but it's almost a comprehensive thing by the end of next year, if not the earlier of the following year. So then you will be able to test trying to conceive, trying to avoid the confirmed ovulation, pregnancy progress, and the miscarriage. So I hope that answers your question. And another question for me is someone asking, I have PCOS, and will the hormone testing be beneficial? And the answer is absolutely yes. When you have PCOS, your hormone profile tend to be different than what I just showed there. However, PCOS person usually try to ovulate multiple times, or there are many small follicles trying to grow in your cycle per cycle in your cycle and every month. So by testing the hormone, you will see when your body is trying, and by testing the progesterone, you will see when the egg is actually released. And also by tracking the whole pattern, you can see your PCOS it's getting better or not really getting better. So if you have irregular cycle, PCOS, hormone imbalances, we actually suggest you to test even more often. Okay, so you will know what the problem is. Another question for me is what is the best time to test for Mira? So you can test you use your first morning urine if you like that, or you can test any time during the day if you limit the fluid intake for 2 hours before that. And you should try to test about the same time every day so your data will be comparable so we can see your trend. And with that, I'm gonna ask a couple of questions for Maureen. So there's a question about the half-life of sperm. So this girl is asking, what is the half-life of sperm in ejaculation? Does fresh sperm die in Moses syringe if that sits for 5 minutes?
So I might call on Dr. Sklar because he may know this better than I do. But as far as my understanding, you have up to an hour, but we recommend using it within 10 to 15 minutes. Obviously, sperm do start to die out during some of that time, but the window of opportunity that is best utilized is within 10 to 15 minutes. I don't have specific numbers to say, like, at this point in time, you've got this much left. And I think some of it also is reliant on the virility of the specimen and the health of the specimen as well. But I don't know if you want to share if there's like a timeline of like, here's half-life and do you know if there's a specific timeline?
Not for something like this. And I really think the biggest key for everyone is there shouldn't be a lot of waiting, right? Like, we should give our sample, we should use the kit, inseminate. It really needs to be quickly. I mean, I even think anything over 30 minutes would be too long in a situation. Although an hour is fine.
The sperm has to travel, so that's why yeah. I said sometimes the sperm has to travel.
Yeah. In that situation, yeah.
Yeah, but definitely the sooner the better. And obviously, there's some time where you might have a moment where you need to set your room up or whatever it is. But yes, definitely the sooner the better.
Got it. Thanks, Maureen. So another question for you about how to use the Mosey baby. So someone's asking, how important is it for me to locate my cervix position before using Mosey baby?
So what I recommend people do is get familiar with their body, find their cervix, know that they have a cervix in their vagina. If you don't know that, now you do. And that cervix is actually a really powerful tool for you to understand your body and when you're ovulating. So if you've seen our website or you've seen some of my videos, you'll know that I talk about this. It is not essential to using Mosey. It is helpful. It is knowledge for you because sometimes people might realize like, oh, it's kind of to the left. It's kind of to the right. It's kind of, and it just depends. It's also helpful because during your cycle, your cervix will change position and texture and even dilate a little bit larger. The opening will dilate when you're ovulating. So it's important information. If you have the opportunity to tomorrow morning after your shower, just take your middle finger gently when you're squatting, lean on the wall, and feel around in there. It's going to feel strange at first, but eventually you're going to find your cervix. And it's really important to get a feel for what it's like when you're not ovulating, because then all of a sudden, especially if you're using something like Mira or ovulation test, and you start to realize like, oh, now it's my time when I'm ovulating, you can get a sense of what that feels like in your own body. And it will feel different. But for using Mosey, you don't need to know exactly where your cervix is. If you are empowered and you have information and you're kind of like, oh, it's over here, that's great. But Mosey was designed with optimal length for most women's vaginas. So we try to take the guesswork out of that for you, and you don't have to worry about that overall.
Thank you, Maureen. So a couple more questions for Dr. Marc. One question is about someone with really short phase after ovulation. I think this is kind of common as well. So someone just ovulated and then start bleeding really soon. So does this affect fertility, and what can she do to increase that phase length?
So yeah, I mean, a luteal phase issue here is definitely a concern, and we want to have a proper length on both sides of the cycle, quite frankly, that shows that everything's working properly. So the first thing I would say is we want to do some testing. The thing that I think of the most here would be progesterone at this stage. And when Mira comes out with their progesterone piece of it, that will be much easier to track it over the course of those days to see what's actually happening. Right now I would say what you would use is, blood work. I also like to use a test called the Dutch test, and I can map their progesterone levels in the luteal phase. And so those are things that I think will be really, really valuable to creating a plan to support that piece. Not all luteal phase issues are progesterone, although that is one of the things that I want to rule out. Other things that could contribute to that would be thyroid issues. So what this is trying to tell you is that we need more answers, right? And we need to do more testing to find out what's going on. We're all not the same. So there could be 10 of you on this call that all have shortened luteal phases, and there can be 10 different reasons why. And we all need to understand what that is for you as an individual, and then take obviously the appropriate treatment from there. So I don't really have answers to tell you in terms of, oh, go do this. I think many of us would say, oh, I should just start taking progesterone. That may or may not help, but that's definitely one of the things at the top of my list that I would want to look at and rule out.
Thank you, Dr. Marc. So we have time for one more question. So this girl is asking that she has really low AMH level. Does the DHEA really improve the AMH level, or do you have some other suggestions?
There is no specific correlation between DHEA and AMH. If you have low AMH levels and you're thinking about taking DHEA, I would really encourage you to have your DHEA levels tested first before you go ahead and do that. For some of you, it might be the right choice, and for some of you, it might really be actually the wrong choice because it can make things worse. So that's not something I would look at. I will say that there is a strong correlation between AMH levels and vitamin D levels, and that the lower the vitamin D often will also see lower AMH. And so I would actually encourage you to say, check your vitamin D levels. If that's also low, then start supplementing with vitamin D in addition. And then really just working on, good overall health across the board, setting those foundational pieces and cleaning up the areas that need a lot of support. It's really easy for us to focus on the things that we do well, but I want to encourage you to look at the things you don't do well and spend more time there to clean those things up. And that really sets a strong foundation. All of those things will really start to hopefully enhance your AMH levels. But I would look at vitamin D before I looked at DHEA, quite frankly.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Dr. Marc, for your answer. So we have already put the handout into the handout section. So if you guys interested in today's slides, and you can download that, we will also send out the recording for this webinar today or tomorrow. So you will have it for sure. So before we're done, we'd like to share some exciting offers. So now we all work together. We know Mira will work well with Mosey Baby, work well with Dr. Marc's consultation. So now if you you can use the code Mosey to get $25 off on Mira when you check out, and also you can use the code Mira to get 10% off on the Mosey when you check it out. And also there is the free gift from Dr. Marc. Dr. Marc has a link about that, and also there's a way to register for his waiting list. If you have more questions for him, I believe our Mira team will share that in the chat, and also will share in our email. So thank you so much. And before you're gone, we like to need your help to do a final survey for us, so we know how we did, and then we can keep improving and make those webinars, future webinars, more targeted to your needs. So please help us with that. And while you guys are doing the survey, I saw some questions about Mira. We don't have time to answer today. So if that's a technical question, feel free to reach out to support@miracare.com. And if that's a shipping question, so the good answer is the good things like you should receive the product really soon. So we face a little bit backorder on the plus ones because we just launched the new product and the demand was way off the roof. So that was to our surprise, was really great news. So we really appreciate you guys, value us and also your support. So the good things like those products are shipping very soon. So you should receive that in 7 days or so on. So it shouldn't take that long. And another thing, one more thing is that if you have, I saw questions about how do I understand my estrogen and LH. We do want your question to be answered. So I'm going to host another Instagram live tomorrow at 2 p.m. PST, so on West Coast time, on our Instagram account. So if you go to Instagram account, you should see it. It's Mira Fertility, at Mira Fertility. That's a handler. So we can discuss there. We can answer any question you have about estrogen, about anything else. So thank you so much for your time. And again, really excited to have everyone here. Really excited to have Maureen and Dr. Marc. Thanks so much. If we don't see you guys, and we'll wish you a great holiday. Stay safe, and we should get out from this COVID situation soon.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you,
everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.